Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Rocky 3, starring Sylvester Stallone, Talia Shire, Burt Young, Carl Weathers, Burgess Meredith, Tony Burton, Mr. T, and Hulk Hogan, and directed by Sylvester Stallone. Now, I remember seeing this before, and let's get into it and see if I like it better than I did before. We again pick up minutes after or before Rocky 2 finishes, and after those term of events, Rocky Balboa is a heavyweight champion of the world. And he's very popular while Eye of the Tiger comes on the movie. And there's brief footage of Rocky's other fights and magazine covers and shots and shoots commercials of American Express, Gatorade, and appears on The Muppet Show, which reminds me of in the last movie, which he said he'll get his son a little Muppet doll of Kermit the Frog. And he has his own pinball machine, and I love this opening. It was a lot of fun. Clubber Lang, played by Mr. T, is another boxer with brutal strength and brutal knockouts, and I love the character because of his lines. For example, "I'm pitiful!" Or excuse me, I meant "I'm pitiful!" And I love how ruthless he is throughout the movie. Paulie throws a beer bottle at the Rocky pinball, and Rocky bails him out, And I like how generous Rocky is from movie to movie, and Paulie is a good character that wants a job with Rocky, with Mickey on his side, and I like how Paulie grows. Rocky for charity fights Rocky goes for charity fights against a wrestler named Thunderlips, played by Hulk Hogan. And he's very brutal, and I honestly think a boxer versus a wrestler doesn't make any sense as a fight, because wrestling can be pretty brutal, and believe it or not, same with boxing as a sport. But the scene was pretty fun to watch, despite how crazy Thunderlips got and how much that scene didn't make sense. Rocky gets a statue in his hometown of Philadelphia, and Rocky is thinking of retiring from boxing, and Clubber Lang talks about how scared Rocky is and really wants a shot with Rocky, and Mickey doesn't want no part of it and walks out, and Rocky confirms he'll fight Clubber because he's insulting Rocky. And I like that setup for this movie too. It's just great. Clubber knocks Mickey down to his death before the match begins, and Apollo Creed, returned by Carl Weathers, goes up to Clubber, and Clubber talks smack about Apollo, and Apollo says to Rocky, "Drop this chump." But unfortunately, Clubber drops Rocky with 2 rounds and loses the heavyweight championship by a knockout, and it's something Dark Knight Rises did, where Rocky is the Batman and Clubber is the Bane, and Mickey passes away in Rocky's hands. But this is the better way to do it than Dark Knight Rises did. Apollo finds Rocky as Mickey's gym and has a plan to defeat Clubber once and for all. But first, we have to go to California to train for the big Rocky versus Clubber fight. We start with going to Apollo's gym and trains with his movement and takes laps in the pool and dances as a boxer, by moving I'm talking about, and learns to watch his punches and dodge them and jogs faster than he ever was before. I like that Rocky trains and admits that he's afraid with Adrian, and I think it's very good acting from Sylvester Stallone and Talia Shire, and even Carl Weathers does it great here as well. I also like how Rocky trains harder and the theme song plays. It's a great way to show your protagonist is a fighter again. Before we get to the final match up of Rocky versus Clubber, Clubber gets interviewed that predicts pain and how he pities the fool, and the way he says it was just brilliant. The way he says, "I pity the fool," when he pushes and gets into Apollo's face, and that was great. And the match begins, and Clubber isn't fighting at first and waits for his moment to pound him, and Clubber says Rocky's predictable. But Clubber is predictable, at least. Rocky hangs on until Clubber runs out of energy, because Clubber knocks people out and never made it to 15 rounds, and Rocky goes up there and exhausts him, And then Clubber loses for the title, and Rocky once again wins it again. And Apollo asks Rocky for a favor earlier in the film after the fight's over, and Apollo and Rocky face off without the press and newspapers, just Apollo and Rocky, and it leads to a painting of Apollo and Rocky punching each other. It was a brilliant ending. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 7.4 out of 10. This is a fun movie with fun characters. Even Clubber Lang was fun to watch. And the story is great until other movies do it again. But yeah, watch this for fun. It's a very fun movie. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me. And next week I will be back with Rocky 4. And until next time, hey yo, Paulie, hit the music!